A budget is like a dam controlling the flow of a river. When the flow is controlled, the houses and people downstream are safe. Without that control, there can be flooding, destruction, and death. The budget is just the same. When the flow of money is controlled, there is peace and harmony downstream. When it is out of control, there can be drought, destruction, and even death of relationships. Now recognize all your budget will do for you is to help you exercise self-control. It is not a ball and chain to prohibit you from ever having fun again or to tie you to a dull, stuck-at-home lifestyle. Having a budget has been very freeing for us. Here are some of the benefits that we have had. First, by controlling our lifestyle and our cash flow, our marriage has been moved to a higher level. Somewhere between 50 to 80% of the divorces in this country cite money as the primary reason for the divorce. Without money to fight about, we have been able to deal with the more important relationship issues. Second, by exercising discipline in the little things, money, God has blessed us with bigger things, money, ministry, and opportunities to help others. Along the way, we have been blessed with grandchildren, great friends, and other things that count. Third, by delaying gratification, which means not buying everything we want when we first want it, we now have a debt-free home, 2 debt-free cars, no credit card debts, and have not paid interest to anyone since 1997. Fourth, the lack of payments has made it possible for me to do the ministry that I'm now pursuing. It has also made it possible for my wife Kathy to retire and spend time helping our local children with our grandchildren, and to help me in my ministry. And fifth, the biggest benefit for all Christians for living on a budget is that it tends to take us out of the battle for the throne of our hearts between money and Christ. We can be more fully surrendered to Christ. As Matthew 6:24 says, no one can serve 2 masters. Either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. End of quote. So, how do we do that? First of all, we keep good records. Here's some recommendations for how to do that. Use a ledger checkbook. If you write down on a piece of paper that's got some space to write and you don't have to be carrying numbers forward all the time, like with those little flip-over pads you get with your checks, you'll find that your checkbook work will be a little more accurate. Second, keep all your debit and credit card receipts and ATM receipts until they clear, and then shred them. Also, only one person, if married, keeps the records. Everything must be balanced every month. That means you balance the checkbook, you balance the books. We'll go into some of that further on. And finally, track down and record all your debts, including the hidden ones. Things like doctor bills, retail credit, annual payments, money that you owe to relatives, great Uncle George who loaned you money to go to school and would like it back someday, but not in a big rush. The second idea is to control gift giving. So how do we do that? One idea is to use an event calendar. Write down what's coming so that you know it's coming and you can plan ahead. Maybe you can make gifts or use family crafts. Use family or work gift drawings for selected gift giving. Rather than give gifts to everybody in the family, have everybody in the family draw names and you set an amount to spend and you buy a gift for the person whose name was drawn. Another idea is to pay only cash for gifts, which means you got to save up ahead of time. And finally, send more cards and fewer gifts. The third idea is to learn to be content with what God has provided. Do you really need the bigger apartment or house? Or is it just going to be more work to keep up, more energy to clean, and need to buy more furniture? Stuff can sometimes just suck energy, so the more space you have, the more stuff you tend to fill it up with. Try using grocery coupons, and be sure to make a list before shopping. If you don't have a list, you're going to be buying stuff that you hadn't planned on buying. Think about this one. Is the morning latte really necessary? One study showed that college students spend over $1,000 a year just in getting lattes on the way to class. That's a lot of money. How about this question? If your car is running and safe, why replace it? Frankly, until the repairs and upkeep exceed the cost of payments for a new car, your older car is still the best deal you got. And while you're thinking of your cars and other things, evaluate your insurance needs and readjust your coverages. Maybe you can increase the deductible and pay for some of those little bitty things and pay a lot less for insurance. How about this one? Can I do a local vacation or mission trip rather than an overseas one? You don't have to spend the money necessary to be going long distances. There's plenty of ministry and plenty of vacation opportunities close to home. Can I plan ahead and get used books rather than new ones? You know, if you wait till the last minute to buy your books, all the good used ones will be gone and you'll have no choice but to buy new ones. Here's a question for you. Does every planned purchase or entertainment selection reflect my Christian ethic? Think about it this way. If your pastor and his wife were standing there next to you and looking at what you were going to buy, would you still buy it? Or how about this one? Have I price shopped for the purchase that I'm about to make? Have you checked around to make sure that you're spending the least you can for what it is you're going to get? And finally, don't forget to redo your budget when things change. You know, promotions, job changes, layoffs, retirements, graduation from school, all have major effects on the budget and on the necessary spending. So you need to redo it. And even if there aren't any big changes, you should be redoing it annually to capture inflation, increased costs, maybe you had a debt paid off. Now, there's many tools available to help you do your budgeting. And I don't want this to be a commercial, but I do want to let you know what's out there. The most basic method of budgeting is different containers to hold the money for different categories. This can be done with cups on a shelf, envelopes, or even a coupon organizer with a number of pockets. To use this method, you just take your paycheck down to the bank, get it cashed into cash, and put the appropriate bills into the appropriate container, envelope, or packet. An example might be the container for the rent. You know that your rent costs $800 per month and you're paid twice a month. Each payday you put 4 $100 bills into the container, envelope, or pocket labeled rent. At the beginning of the next month, when the rent is due, you take the $800, which is $400 twice per month, and pay your rent. For an estimated $400 of groceries, you'll do the same, only put in half as much. When it's time to do the weekly grocery shopping, you take $100 out of the envelope and spend it on food. When the container is empty, the spending for that category stops. Now that can be tough with groceries, but my guess is if you look, you'll find some interesting things in the back of your closet that are at least still edible. They may not taste great, but they'll be edible and nutritious. Now all the other categories would work roughly the same. Probably the next step up is the monthly budget sheet that we'll be learning later on in the class. It's a spreadsheet for all your income and spending. The big difference is that you keep all the money together and then use numbers in the columns to track what's going on. Each column would be a different budget category, roughly equivalent to the container or envelope or pocket in the coupon organizer. Now on the spreadsheet, you calculate what your budget will be for the month and then use those numbers as targets for your spending. You enter them at the top of each column for reference. You can have as many columns as you wish, but we recommend no more than 14. After that, it gets too difficult to manage. For students living at home or on campus, the number of columns can be even less. Now, as you spend money, you write your spending in the correct column and on the correct row for that day. Mid-month, you do a subtotal so you can see how you're doing against your budget. You may need to do some adjustments along the way. And at the end of the month, you do a month total. This is also compared to the budget, so you can adjust your budget to make it work for you in the next month. This method allows you to keep excess money in your checking or savings account. It also lets you do things without carrying large amounts of cash around. Now, next on my list of budgetary tools are the commercial bookkeeping programs such as Microsoft Money or Quicken. There's many others out there, but these are probably the ones that are used the most. Now recognize these are bookkeeping programs with a budget module tacked on. They will work as you spend if you take the time to run frequent reports that show your spending against your budget. One of these works very well for us. You once again need to create and input a budget with the money divided into categories and then track all your spending. The latter is what these programs are really good at.